give divine guidance to the President of the Republic, endow members of Parliament and Ministers of State with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government this land and people may be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the effort of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, let me invite you to item number 4 on today's order paper. Item number 4, correction of votes and proceedings and official report. We will start with correction of votes and proceedings. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page number 4. Page 5. Page number 6, page number 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page number 15, page 16, page 17, Honorable, are you up on your feet? Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Speaker, apologies, I was, if you bear with me, for us to go back to page 8. I'm sorry, page 8.
You are taking us back to page 8?
Yes, with respect. Speaker, page 8, 2 items, number 2 and 7. Honorable Abuaje George Kwame and Honorable Asifua Vincent Echo. Speaker, I checked their leave of absence scheduled between 14th and 15th July for both members of Parliament. So, and I checked, I got it confirmed. So they were supposed to have been marked as absent with permission, but they were marked as absent. And if the table office could take. As we are going forward, I think this thing keeps repeating itself. If the clerk's office and the table office could collaborate more on these matters, we could avoid some of these occurrences. Thank you.
Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I note that even you personally, presiding, have expressed your concern over attendance by members and they getting marked present in accordance with laid down process. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that the board is considering some discussion. What we need to do is to install an electronic system in this chamber. When you are coming in, you thumb print and walk in and sit, or as I sit, then I put my thumb. Then it is picked up so that it may even capture your facial. We have to get fit into contemporary IT requirement, which can take your iris so that nobody sits in and says, I was here, I was marked present, I was marked absent. So I thought that we are back to your word. I recall last 2 weeks when you presided and this matter was raised, you expressed the same thing. We should get the board, and I have been pushing strongly that one, and then indulge me, broadband internet access. I mean, once you enter this chamber, the broadband strength and its speed within this chamber must take over your mobile broadband so that you can have access. When you want to comment on a minister for internal affairs in Sri Lanka and his struggle as to how to deal with matters in Sri Lanka, your phone becomes a reliable tool for research. So, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate what the whip is doing. Sometimes I wonder what power of authority he has in the morning, in the afternoon is diluted, and in the evening is taken out of his sleep. I thank you.
Thank you very much, leader. I think leadership, we have to take this issue seriously. Table, please take note of what the chief whip concerns was with respect to Honorable Assefuya and Honorable Abuaji. But meanwhile, let me reiterate what I said at that time. Please, once you enter, make it a point to register your name. Please, make it a point. Once you enter the chamber, please make it a point to register your name that you have come to the chamber. Please, it's very important. We move to page 16. Page 17. Page number 18. Page 19. Page 20. Yes, Honorable Member for Kwadaso.
Honorable Speaker, page 20, item 2, Roman numeral III, Madam Cecilia Ezua, head of human resource. Resource was not correctly spelled. It should be RESOURCE. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Table. Take a look at the spelling of resource. Finally, honorable members, we move to page 21. Page 21. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 28th sitting of the second meeting of the second session held yesterday, Thursday, the 14th of July, 2022. Yes, Leader.
Madam Speaker, pardon me. Page 20 to 21, you know, the committee of the whole, I just see a report. There is no highlight of the information and data that was shared. At least some 16,900,000 were told. I thought that next time, even though it will appear in the official report, for the purpose of our record, the highlights of their presentation must be captured by the votes and proceedings. At least if for nothing at all, the record that 16.9 million Ghanaians have so far been registered for the card, even though we subsequently asked for the district and in particular regional distribution of it. If that one doesn't appear, we may accept that in the official report. But at least you just say attendance, and then you list the paragraph where, Mr. Speaker, you presided, and then attendance. That's not good enough.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I don't want a Friday morning litigation, but the respected minority leader knows that all the concerns will be dealt with by Hansa. Yes, but anyway, I know he wanted to clear his throat before we do the business statement. So, if it's all about clearing of throat, it's permitted. So, Mr. Speaker, that's fine.
Very well. I think on this particular, you have to be clear about it as to what should go into the votes and proceedings and what goes into the official report. I think leadership, we have to be clear about some of these things. So, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 28th sitting of the second meeting of the second session held yesterday, Thursday, the 14th July 2022, as corrected, are hereby adopted as the true records of proceedings. Honorable members, respectfully, we have the official report of Wednesday, the 22nd June 2022. Wednesday, the 22nd June 2022, official report. Honorable members, I take it again. Wednesday, 22nd June 2022, official report. I will take it for the last time. Wednesday, 22nd June 2022's official report. Honorable members, in the absence of any corrections, the official report of Wednesday, 22nd June 2022 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Honorable members, Leader, do you have the business statement for the ensuing week?
Rightly so, Mr. Speaker. And with your leave.
Very well. But it appears it didn't, today's other paper didn't capture. Leader, yes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, your committee met and agreed on the business for the ensuing week as follows. Mr. Speaker, for want of time, I will not belabor the reading of the entire report, as same has been in circulation and members are on due notice. In total, 64 questions are expected to be answered in the ensuing week. Mr. Speaker, your referrals are supposed to be worked on by committees, and members, as usual, in accord with Order 72, will have the opportunity, once their statements are admitted by you, to make those statements on the floor. Mr. Speaker, for emphasis, sitting time and extended sittings, it's been agreed that since adjournment sine die is programmed for Thursday, the 28th of July 2022, there will be extended sittings, and that sitting each day is expected to commence 10 a.m. without any delay. Mr. Speaker, attached here too is the order in which the business for the ensuing week is to proceed, and it's a 10-page attachment which members must have a critical look and know which day they are supposed to ask their questions and what program is also for a particular day. Mr. Speaker, having said all of these, I shall rely on Order 162 and 53 of the rules of this House to submit that this report be adopted. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the business statement for the ensuing week has just been highlighted to us by the Deputy Leader. It is for the House's consideration. Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we were all at the funeral to bid farewell to the Honorable Ndebugri. So I personally didn't have the opportunity to be at business committee, but there is an urgent matter I want the leader of government business to take up, which is about the fact that Ghanaian students who will be writing the senior school certificate examination, about 422,000 of it, government owes the West Africa Examination Council in the region of about some 15 million.
Leader,
and we're required to pay some 7 million
Leader,
for the exam this year.
Excuse me, is it in respect of the business statement?
Yes,
or?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Because, Mr. Speaker, if they don't table, Mr. Speaker, maybe I repeat myself. Students who are due to write senior secondary school certificate exams, it will begin in August. The West Africa Examination Council is saying that government owes them outstanding for last year about 15 million. And government will require about 96 million for this year. And if we don't get the Minister for Finance and Education to act urgently, it will put the senior secondary school exam in jeopardy. But as I said, I'm indulging you because yesterday I didn't participate in business statement. But it's a matter of urgent public importance that the Minister for Finance and Education make available to the West Africa Examination Council whatever is due them outstanding and what is needed urgently for this year's senior secondary certificate examination. Thank you for tolerating me.
Yes, let me invite the Minister for Interior.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I think the call of the minority leader should be considered, and I want to encourage the minority to approve our loan request to make sure that government can meet its financial obligations. We should deal with that one.
Yes, let me invite the ranking member for the occasion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to correct a figure mentioned by the minority leader. The actual arrears is 23,011,827. The BEC for last year, 2021, the arrears is 7 million. And then the arrears for WASE, WASE last year, the arrears for WASE last year is 15 million. So if you put the two together, it's 23 million for 2021 for the two examinations. This year, for WASE is 96 million, out of which 6 million is urgently needed for practicals and oral examinations. And the examinations are to start on 1st August of this year. So if nothing is done immediately, WAEC will be unable to conduct examinations and they will have to postpone the examinations. Already, the 4 other countries have taken their 2022 WASE already in May. So it's only left with Ghana. So I think, Mr. Speaker, this is an urgent issue which must be brought to the attention of the two ministers so that something urgently is done about it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, let me hear the majority leader.
Speaker, technically, this matter is not mature to be placed before the House. But we are dealing with a document. That's the business statement. What you are raising has nothing to do with the business statement.
That's what he's been doing.
But if you have a minority leader who is part of the business committee, who decides eternally to be causing internal bleeding, Mr. Speaker, we have a problem. We have a problem. But, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding, the matter is germane, and the government, the state, everybody recognizes that we are in some difficulty, and we should be bonding and banding together to have budgetary support. Then we have people who are determined to create a gridlock. The people know themselves. If the cap fits, you wear it. If the cap fits, you wear it. I'm not mentioning any group of people. The Speaker, and then they turn around to say that, oh, but we need this money to do that. Let's confront the real issues, and when the matter comes before us, let's offer support. And I agree with you that it's a matter of urgency, and we should find resources to cover it as urgently as possible. I guess it will be communicated to the minister the issues raised, and I hope that working together with the finance minister, we'll agree with the finance minister to be here with us at 11. I guess he himself will be here. Once he comes, we'll tell him that these are matters that have come suddenly before us, and we should have the courage to have the resources to cover the case. Because, Mr. Speaker, certainly this is a flagship project, and it cannot be allowed to degenerate into something else. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Please, I hope it's not on this matter. We are dealing with the business statement. Well. So let's hear you.
Right, Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure we are.
Don't allow yourself
we have enough.
Honourable member, don't allow yourself to
listen
be
to Speaker. Speaker said we don't have quorum, but we are doing business. So listen to Speaker.
Let's hear you, Honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the deputy leader for the business statement, and just want to remind leadership that item 6 on the statement says that we'll start work at 10 o'clock prompt. I'm sure you have considered this seriously before putting 10 o'clock. So it is your responsibility to encourage the rest of membership to turn up at 10 o'clock. So Speaker, who is always on time, will sit in the chair at 10 o'clock for us to start business. And also you have promised to make sure that when we do extended sitting, you provide all the necessary support services to make sure that members don't sit and harm themselves health-wise when they sit beyond what is allowed. So since you have made this commitment in your business statement, I hope you would adhere to these commitments you've made in the business statement. Mr. Speaker, leader should allow us to, because we don't attend the business committee with you. Certain things ought to just be brought here. Even if they are not done, maybe you would just take it in maybe subsequently. Mr. Speaker, there's a concern by small, medium contractors, especially those who with the roadsides. Some of them are owed only about 5,000 cedis, 10,000 cedis. Since the chairman of the road fund is also the deputy leader, I'm just encouraging our colleague, the road minister, who is very diligent to the house. I consider him to be the first in terms of pecking order in his diligence to answering questions in this house. Just to take on board that if a space comes during the week, if he can brief the house as to what we can all do to at least those who are owed just 5,000, 10,000 cedis as small-scale contractors, some of whose petition I've seen, some people are sick, just need a little bit of money to go to hospital. Government owes them 5,000 cedis, Mr. Speaker. That is not why we can. Road fund, we are still paying money into the road fund. We should be able to deal with those little ones while we think of big money to pay the big contractors. So if our colleague, the road minister, will find some time next week, if it's possible, and the board chairman of road fund can brief the house how we will pay the SMC contractors, at least, even if not all. I mean, those that are in dire need of the money for health reasons, if we can pay them, I think we'll be doing a lot for for the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I know we don't have the numbers, but we have agreed to do business. Thank you very much.
Leader, hold on. You will answer collectively. Let me listen to them. Then, yes, honourable member for Bill.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted some information from the Deputy Majority Leader. First, I want to thank him for the statement, but to just find out, he said, usually when the Minister responsible for finance attends upon the House and presents the media reviews, budget statement, without supplementary estimates, it is comments that are made. And he went ahead to agree that comments shall be made with allotment of time. I only want to find out from whether he's been informed by the finance minister he would not be making supplementary estimates, for which reason he's already concluded that it is only comments that will be made after the presentation. I've listened to concerns from the Finance Committee engagement yesterday, giving indication to the fact that some loan facility that is being requested is above what was in the 2022 estimates. And if that will continue, it means there will be some kind of variation. And if there will be supplementary estimates, why is he concluding that there will be no estimate and that it's just comments that shall be made as has been the usual practice? Thank you.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I was privileged to be at the Business Committee as a member. And after adopting this at the Business Committee, when we came to the House, I saw a certain development which I want to fall on the chairman of the committee and your good self to make sure that if it will be possible for us to factor it in. Mr. Speaker, we have, reading the business statement, we have barely 1.5 weeks or 2 weeks to adjourn, which means we are adjourning on the 28th of this month, as has been accepted by the business statement. And yesterday, Mr. Speaker, by your good privileges, you made the Minister for Interior and the National Identification Authority to appear before the House and to brief us as a committee of the whole. Mr. Speaker, during that deliberations, a number of things came out, which committee members, which the House made very good input, and the Minister was very frank with us. He made the challenges the National Identification Authority is facing clear to the House. One of them was unreliability of network and funding, which is obstructing the work of the NIA. And even going to the point of saying that even the whole of Western North, they have a very difficulty in registering the people because of poor or unreliable network. So, Speaker, when they said that, some members of the subsidiary legislation also said there's a constitutional instrument before them, which the EC wants to make the Ghana card the sole document for registration of people into the voters register. If that is the case, the Ghana card people are saying they have challenges with funding, they have unreliable network, maybe the EC, and that they are now engaging with the EC. I want to put it before the chairman of the business committee and your good self. If, Mr. Speaker, now that the subsidiary legislation is doing what we call pre-laying, which we are not privy to, now that this information is before all of us as a House, that there are these challenges, if the EC will appear before us next week, before we adjourn, so that when he comes and brief us as a committee of the whole, then we just oppose the two inputs and be able to see how we can find a middle way to solve this problem, so that when the time comes, we wouldn't be confronted with some controversial issues. This man wants to do this, mistrust, and all those kind of things. Once the cards are before us, we know the challenges, we know the intention, we know the load before us. Even if in the supplementary budget, which is going to come next week, if funding is your problem as a House, we can fall on the Minister for Finance or on government to make funding available to the Ghana card, that this is the intention of the EC and this is the intention of the Ghana card people, and these are their challenges, so that we can find a middle way. So, Mr. Speaker, this is just a call. I want to call on you and the majority leader, who is the leader of the House and chairman of the business committee, to make the EC available before we adjourn, so that we can make input in the decisions of the EC as a country.
Very well. Yes. Now, leader, let me respectfully invite you to respond to some of the concerns.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my colleague, Honorable Govins Abuja, that beginning next week, because of the tall of business, we should be sitting at 10 o'clock. I agree that we should sit early enough in order to have much more time to transact outstanding business in the House. The Speaker, so I will plead with the chair that 10 o'clock prompt, the chair should be occupied. And if we begin with the prayers and the question of votes and proceedings, by the time we are through, members would have joined us and no more business then will be transacted. Speaker, the Honorable Abuja was also talking about payment to small and medium-scale contractors who have done some work on the clearing of the edges of roads and so on, which is very important because, Mr. Speaker, they do two things. Once we do the clearing of the edges of the roads, they prevent the occurrence of accidents and also go a long way to protect the roads themselves. Because if you allow weed to grow at the edges, they ultimately affect the main roads and cause exfoliation, which is what should be prevented. So, Mr. Speaker, I agree with him that these amounts should be paid. But he was addressing the Deputy Majority Leader as the chairman of the road fund. Mr. Speaker, there's no chairman of the road fund. There's the chairman of the board of the road fund. There's no chairman of the road fund. But having said so, Mr. Speaker, I would want to draw the attention of my colleague, since he wanted to, I guess he wants to file a question. Mr. Speaker, I will bear in mind to Order 63. And Order 63 provides that questions may also be asked of other members of Parliament relating to a bill, motion, or other public matter connected with the business of the House, for which such members are responsible. He is responsible. File the appropriate question. I will come and respond to it. Questions are not meant for only ministers. They are meant for members of Parliament as well. File the question, and I believe that he's capable of responding to that. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Kofi Adams also introducing, he wanted to know why it is that the business statement is providing that the minister may come with a statement. Yes, it's coming with a mid-year review. A mid-year review is just to inform us about the progress that is being made in the implementation of the budget. There's an Appropriations Act that you yourself passed in this House. To the extent that it will not involve a request for additional expenditures, to that same extent, we did not elicit the approval from this House of any regular expenditures. In that case, the minister comes with a statement just to inform the House where he is. If the minister is going to go on the tangent of Article 179, which provides, Speaker, I want to read for the elucidation of my colleague. Article 179 provides in clause 8, where in respect of a financial year, it is found that the amount of monies appropriated by the Appropriations Act for any purpose is insufficient, or that a need has arisen for expenditure for a purpose for which no sum of monies has been appropriated by the Act, a supplementary estimate showing the sum of money required shall be laid before Parliament for its approval. In that case, the House will be required to approve of the request by the minister. And that is why the minister then will come by a motion. If it is just for information, it's just a paper that's presenting. If it should relate to Article 179, Clause 8, the proper thing will be done. The Speaker, the issue raised by the Deputy Whip for the minority is an ongoing exercise. I don't want to respond further to that. It's an ongoing exercise. If there are any bottlenecks, appropriate briefing will be given to the House. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister for Interior.
Right Honourable Speaker, I just wanted to add to the comments of the Majority Leader in respect of the NIA engagement yesterday. I think that was a very useful engagement, and the leader on the other side did raise some issues that came up. But the important thing is that we gave the figure as 16.9 million as at 12 July, and it's ongoing. Yesterday, the inputs we got from members is going to accelerate the process. Because one of the challenges we had was that the law had designated specific offices in the capital. But yesterday, we came to an agreement that it should be possible for us to move, especially in view of reception challenges, to places where we get better reception. And that NIA is open to support from DCEs, as has happened in some places like Central Goa and others, and even to MPs coming in to be able to move their staff to places that they think are distant or far away from the designated headquarters. In fact, the leader who spoke today also talked about we providing funding. So, Mr. Speaker, I see an acceleration in the process. And I believe that as I talk to you today, we have gone beyond that. Furthermore, by the weekend, next week, they will be bringing us details of the regional and district breakdowns, which will further enable us to focus. So I think it's premature for us to start crying foul, and I believe that we will work together to make sure we accelerate it and be able to. So there's no need, it's premature to call for the EC to come when indeed we have not even engaged them as at this stage. Thank you.
Yes, Ahmed. And
Thank you,
you'll be the last person.
I'm beginning from where the Honorable Minister ended. That it is premature to engage the EC since they have not concluded with their decisions. But there's a CI. Once you lay it and you lay it, it starts running. After 21 sitting days, it's a law. What engagements are you going to do after the CI has been laid and it has become a law? By the Supreme Court ruling, you know once the CI is laid and is confined or restricted to only Ghana card, whatever engagements you are going to make after that is of no effect. And that is why it will be important, once you are saying we made very good input yesterday, maybe when we meet the EC, he also briefed us. Then we make similar good input. Then you can fine-tune the kind of the kind of CI that you are bringing before us. But you are making a law after going to make engagement. After the law, what engagement leader can you make? And after these 2 weeks, after 28th, we are not meeting until October. So, Mr. Speaker, if there's a need for engagement, the time is now. So that in future we will not be saying, had I known. The opportunity has presented itself. If you are saying it's premature, fine. But we are saying that if there's any time that the EC must brief this House and get our thinking as stakeholders in the democratic process, the time is now. But the EC is engaging the Ghana card people. And we will make our input easy. If you bring this CI, these are the problems that are going to be generated. Let's find a way of solving them. This is what the call that I'm making. So, Mr. Speaker, I still want to plead with you and with the majority leader. If on Wednesday or Thursday, we can make just 30 minutes for the EC to come and brief the House, his intention and why he's planning to make such a constitutional instrument by taking passport of Ghana, that if I have a valid passport, I cannot register to become a voter. He must come with his challenges. Why is taking Ghana passport away, he's taking the guarantor system away, and confining to only Ghana card. Meanwhile, the Ghana card people are saying that their process is also an ongoing. So the call is germane. And leader, I'll plead with you, we should not downplay it.
Yes, Honorable Speaker. We met yesterday, Minister of Interior and NIA. He's shifting to talk about what has happened in another subcommittee, which is subsidiary committee. What I'm saying, if immature didn't drive home my point, I am saying that there is no cause for alarm as at this stage, considering the way in which we are pursuing this matter. So that is it. And you have asked us to bring figures on Friday. So what is it that it is? I think that if premature is the word that he thought is not comfortable. I am saying that considering what we said yesterday, we are on course and there should be no need for any panic.
Yes, leader.
Speaker, the member, the deputy whip, said that we should take the suggestions that we made seriously. Nobody is downplaying it. But what is the import of bringing the EC here? Assuming that we bring, what will be the import? When the CI is running. Unless you are telling us that whatever happens, we should then, it should occasion a suspension of the EI. But that cannot be done. So let it run. The law is not sacrosanct. And fortunately for us, the next public elections is not due this year, but the assembly elections are due, is it 2 years or next year? It's next year. That is the next public elections. So depending on the outcome of this, right, we can have the engagement. The minister is saying that it's premature when you say that, well, we should do it next week. Let it run. If they encounter any turbulence, then we'll deal with it. Fortunately, as I said, the public elections is not due until maybe the third quarter of next year. We have ample time to deal with any challenges. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Well. Yes. Honorable Biamo, a member of the...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Subsidiary Legislation Committee met. As the prelay, and the EC brought the proposed CI to the committee. We've almost completed a discussion. Indeed, regarding the Ghana card and guarantees, we asked the EC to go back and look at it and report to us. That is where we've reached. And I don't think there's any need to drag them here at this time. Thank you.
Honourable members, in the absence of any further concerns, the business statement as presented by the Deputy Majority Leader is hereby adopted. Leader, are you moving to urgent questions?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. We'll do the questions. And I'll pray with you that we allow for crisp response because we intend to adjourn early today. So we can listen to the ministers. And the Speaker, in respect of 6A and B, the minority leader and I were thinking whether we shouldn't have a closed sitting. But the minister assures that he will navigate the waters. So we can have the preliminary responses.
Very well.
So, Mr. Speaker, I believe we'll allow the ministers to respond to the questions. And as I said, we'll try to have a policy of containment as far as this one is concerned. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Minister for National Security, may you take your rightful seat. Honorable members, let me kindly invite you to page 2. Leader, why?
Mr. Speaker, this question is a very dangerous question to be answered in public. Mr. Speaker, That's why our standing orders provide for a closed sitting where members are even punished when they leak any information out. And that atmosphere will be conducive for this.
So, can we, honorable members, I don't know, can we hold on to A and B and let the minister answer the subsequent ones, and when we will come back and probably, yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think the minister can respond to the B in plenary because already he's spoken to it in public. And the public may want to hear the sequel to the what must be done. So I would suggest that we listen to him as far as the 6B is concerned, and then we can recline into a closed sitting for him to respond to the 6A.
Very well. So let me now invite Honorable Member for Tafo. Is he around? Is Honorable Member for Tafo around? Old Tafo. Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
If it's not around,
Mr. Speaker,
yes.
We have a colleague here.
Yes.
Otherwise, Tafo and Swami used to be one constituency. So I could assume responsibility and ask the question on behalf of you. But we have a member here who can.
Anyway, I could see that the best friend of Tafo MP is the Fija Kwabre MP. So the Fija Kwabre, you may ask the question on behalf of Honorable Ekwawu Vincent. So, question B.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for National Security measures put in place to educate and sensitize the citizens on the Operation See Something, Say Something. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Respectfully, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity.
Honorable members, please, we have brought the minister here. Let's give him the due attention. Please.
Mr. Speaker, we launched the See Something, Say Something campaign to encourage the active involvement and participation of all stakeholders, notably the general public, the media, civil society organizations, political leaders, among others, and in fact all Ghanaians, in efforts to protect the state against terrorism and violent extremism. The approach also promotes the building of trust and effective collaboration between the citizenry and the state security agencies. Mr. Speaker, it is in line also with our national security strategy that advocates a whole of society effort in the management of our national security challenges. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that in the first quarter of 2022, 346 terrorist attacks were recorded in Africa, 49% of which occurred in West Africa. In the second quarter of this year, and in West Africa alone, we have seen 172 attacks which has resulted in the death of 1,416 people in West Africa alone. The Speaker, the whole of society approach to enhancing national security therefore underpinned the May 24, 2022 launch of the Ministry of National Security's Citizen Awareness Campaign, which we dubbed See Something, Say Something. It aims to educate the citizenry on the threat of terrorism, while urging SAFE to collaborate with state security and intelligence agencies to effectively eliminate such threats. The Speaker, subsequent to the launch of the campaign, a call center was operationalized and a toll-free number 999 was announced to enable citizens report suspicious activities and persons. Notwithstanding some challenges faced, Mr. Speaker, notably excessive prank calls to the center, personnel deployed to man the center continue to work efficiently to support the work of state security and intelligence agencies. On average, Mr. Speaker, the call center receives 8,000 calls on a daily basis, with more than 50% of the calls being prank calls. Mr. Speaker, as part of the public awareness campaign, we have also documented and we have provided security and safety tips to some media houses to inform public engagements aimed at enhancing the security consciousness of Ghanaians. Also, actors within the security architecture, notably the various dissects, the various MUSECs, and the RESECs, and also other stakeholders such as religious bodies, traditional and opinion leaders, among others, Mr. Speaker, continue to engage in public education and sensitization programs at the local level to promote citizen awareness. The Ministry is also engaging the leadership of the National Union of Ghana Students to sensitize students within various educational institutions on the threat of terrorism through a series of educational programs. Let me say, Mr. Speaker, that we as a country cannot remain complacent. The fact that we have not been attacked does not imply that we are eternally immune to a terrorist attack. And we think deliberate actions and conscious efforts, not only by our state security and intelligence agencies, but indeed all Ghanaians and persons within the country's jurisdiction, are required to keep the terrorists away. And Mr. Speaker, this is why we believe it is important also for members of Parliament from both sides of the House to support the See Something, Say Something campaign, as the threat of terrorism looms in the sub-region. The lives and the livelihoods of our families, our friends, our constituents remain at stake. And I want to crave your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, to use this platform to implore all members of the House to actively support and also partake in the See Something, Say Something campaign, as the contribution of members of this House towards protecting Ghanaians from this threat of terrorism and violent extremism. And in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I would like to emphasize that safeguarding the country's security and stability remains a key priority for all the state security and intelligence agencies. And to that end, we will remain vigilant and we will continue to work towards strengthening our capacity to effectively mitigate all the threats. So, Speaker and members of the House, let us always remember that if you see something, please say something. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, I'll give the opportunity if you have a follow-up question. You don't have a follow-up question. Yes, Honorable Collins Elder.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the business statement read today, the House is expected to adjourn Senate on the 28th of July. And members will be going to their various constituencies. And we'll be visiting communities and be educating our constituents on national issues. This operation, see and say it, it's a very important, it's the same thing. Seeing and saying is very important. I want to find out that requires the involvement of members of parliament to assist in the sensitization and education of the citizenry. I want to find out from the minister whether he has any support package for members of parliament to be able to get involved effectively in supporting this education program. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I must thank the honourable member for this intervention. I'm delighted to observe that he appreciates the need for the House to take this campaign very seriously. Mr. Speaker, the support to members, I believe, will be very, very useful. But I would have thought that this is the prerogative of the of Parliament as an institution, and not necessarily from the executive. I think I will have no difficulty supporting this call for Parliament as a House to find a way of encouraging members of the House to undertake the campaign. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honourable Member for Kwadaso. I'm giving the last slot for this particular.
Honourable Speaker, I think either last week or the week before, we got some information from the Ghana Immigration Service that some jihadist jailbreakers from Nigeria have found themselves within our borders. And I would like to find out from the Honourable Minister for National Security if he has some indication as to whether they are indeed in this country or otherwise. Thank you.
Minister, are you minded to respond to him?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, let me thank the honourable member for asking this question. Yes, there is some truth in what he's saying, that some prisoners managed to escape from prisons in Nigeria. We have no doubt that it has implications for all other countries in West Africa. Clearly, some of them will be trying to seek safe haven in neighboring countries. We are aware of this. This is an operational matter, and we will deal with it as necessary. But we thank you for his concern.
Very well. So, leader, did I get you right that we hold on to the A?
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated initially, this really is an operational matter which really would border on strategy. And I'm not too sure that we need to discuss, yes, we need to discuss that in plenary. Speaker, we shouldn't. And we should find some other time and a much more appropriate forum to relate to that. So certainly not today.
But not today.
Not today. And it cannot also be addressed in plenary. The Speaker, so we'll come to some determination on that.
Very well. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, on many issues, he knows that I will disagree with him, but on matters of national security and the security of the state and individual Ghanaian citizens, he knows that me and him were in secured hands, so we respect what he has said, and appropriately the minister will come and apprise us. So I don't need to disagree with you on this matter. So, Mr. Speaker, as you may well direct. Thank you.
Very well. On that note, Honorable Minister, on behalf of the House, let me thank you very much for attending upon the House to respond to members' questions. You are hereby discharged. Let me now invite Honorable Minister for Interior to take the urgent questions C, D, and E. So we will begin with urgent question C. And it stands in the name of a member for Yonyo, Honorable Oscar Liwa. Honorable, let's hear you. The minister is available.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for the Interior when the Ministry will consider appointing a district police commander to the Yonyo district. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Yes.
Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker, Yonyo is a district capital for the Yonyo Nasuam district and also Naswa and also a constituency capital. Mr. Speaker, but it's not a police district. The town has a police station with a staff strength of 8 police officers. The police station is under the command of the Bunkurugu Police District. Right Honorable Speaker, the police administration in its quest to effectively manage crime has always created more districts to bring policing to the doorstep of the citizenry. These, however, depend on the availability of resources. The police administration has plans to carve out a police district for Yonyo from the Bunkurugu district, police district. It is, however, constrained by the absence of inadequacy of residential and office accommodation to facilitate the posting of some more police officers to Yonyo. Right Honorable Speaker, the police administration would consider appointing a commanding officer to the Yonyo police when it is elevated from a station to a district. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Liwa, any supplementary question?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. It may interest you to know that quite apart from the district not having a police commander, the district can only boast of 14 police personnel for the whole of the district. I'm appealing to the minister to consider posting more police personnel to the district.
Yes, I think this is just an appeal. Honorable Minister, you want to assure him? Very well.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think the appeal is well taken, but I also appeal to the Member of Parliament to see how he can support to provide some office and residential accommodation, maybe with the support of the District Assembly, to enable us send some more police.
Honorable Bawa, I wouldn't call you. Honorable Liwa, let me hear you for the last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to find out from the Minister, when will he consider upgrading the district to a police district?
Honorable, repeat your question, please.
I'm asking the Minister when he will consider upgrading the UU district to a police district.
District command.
District command. District command.
I think he has answered that question. That was part of the answer he gave to the substantive question. Oh, Minister, is that not the case? Very well. So we move to question D, urgent question D. And the question stands in the name of a member for Kintampo North. Kintampo North. Honorable Joseph Kwame Kuma. Honorable, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister for Interior what plans NADMO has to support victims of the destruction, rainfall that affected over 30 houses in the Asantikwa area of Kintampo North constituency between April and May 2022 this year.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker. The beginning of the rainy season this year has seen heavy downpours and related disaster that has affected many parts of the country, resulting in the loss of lives and properties. In the first and second quarters of the year, recorded about 72,034 individuals or victims as persons affected by the various forms of disaster across the country. The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has been able to provide some direct assistance to some of the victims. Right, Honorable Speaker, the victims of the storm that hit Asantikwa area in Kintampo North constituency are part of the remaining victims yet to be supported. And so there are plans and we are mobilizing resources to see how we do that. Right, Honorable Speaker, I would like to assure the people of Asantikwa that NADMO is mobilizing the needed resources to mitigate their losses. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a follow-up question for Minister. Mr. Speaker, if you permit me, last year, Kintampo North was hit with rainstorm between Babato to Benkrum. I did ask a question here about 300 households, including an ostrich farm, were affected. I asked a question on the floor. Minister came and pledged a promise and had even indicated that the Minister of Finance had released money as of 7th July last year, 2021, for victims to be supported. Up to now, not a bucket, not a blanket. How am I sure that this year, with these 30 additional houses affected, we are going to be considered? And if even that, those who are considered this year, why is it that last year up to now, Kintampo North people are left out?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker. The honorable member has referred me to a question last year where I stated expressly that some money had been released by finance. Since then, I haven't heard anything from you that it hasn't been done. I haven't heard. What is the effort? I have indicated. What is the effort? The point is that, Honorable Speaker, we are in this house to collaborate. If I come, well, all I can say is that I'm not sure of what you have said. I need to go and check from NADMO, because that's not the question you've asked today. But I'm saying we can do better than that. I'm a colleague. You can come to the office and tell me, you came here and said this, resources have been released. It's 3 weeks, it's 4 weeks, I haven't had it. I would be available to deal with it. But you wait a year later, and you come and you are telling me, I will not comment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right,
your last question.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm sure NADMO is one of the organizations that is mandated to have disaster issues solved. And the minister takes reports from them for whatever has happened. So I am appealing to the minister that if he will remember, he did indicate to me I should follow up to NADMO, and if I was finding difficulties, I should get back to him. Minister, Mr. Speaker, this work we do, mine is to bring the issue up. NADMO is listening to me everywhere today. That before I filed this question, I asked home whether there were any relief attempts last year and this year. And the answer is no. Please, Mr. Minister, for me to be following up to your office, you know how busy you are and how busy all parliamentarians are. I have done my duty. It's left with NADMO, I beg, to follow to do their work. That's how we are paying them. So any answer contrary to that, Mr. Minister, I may not be doing my work and yours may not be safe. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Yes, this year, your people have not received relief items. That's what I told you in the answer. And we can deal with that. But I cannot deal with what I'm not aware of, especially if you said you went there. You not coming meant that you had been satisfied, in my view. But, Mr. Right Honorable Speaker, I cannot direct my colleagues. We are equal here. All I'm saying is that so far, your people have not been dealt with. If you don't mind, my part of the business is to make sure that the agencies under me do the business. So if you don't mind, and you find time, I have time. Next week, come to the office. Let's do that. Thank you.
Yes. Let me now turn my attention to Kwadaso on question ye.
Speaker, I have some of my constituents who live there in Kintampo, because you know it's a place that is there's a settler area. It's a settler area. It's a settler area.
Honorable Adrian. No.
So I have a follow-up question.
I've already called the member for Kwadaso.
I share a boundary with Kintampo.
Honorable member for Kwadaso on urgent question ye. Honorable Dr. Kinsenyako. Let's hear you.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to ask this urgent question. Please, I would like to ask the Minister for the Interior measures the ministry has put in place to curb or address the negative effects of betting on our society, especially among the youth and children in our various educational institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker.
In line with Section 48 of the Gaming Act 2006, Act 721, persons under the age of 18 years are prohibited or not permitted to engage in gambling. To address the effect of gambling on the youth, the Gaming Commission issued a directive in the fourth quarter of 2021 prohibiting the operation of any analog or non-digitized gaming machines, namely jackpot machines, beginning 1st January 2022. The prohibition is in line with the plans of the gaming to implement a gaming administration and monitoring system, GAMS, which will provide regulatory assurance and maximize revenue collection for the government, as well as promote responsible gaming among players and prevent underage gambling. Right Honourable Speaker, the Gaming Commission has also put in place measures to reduce the potential harm associated with gaming. This includes the implementation of Know Your Customer verification, which the Gaming Commission has enforced to identify and verify customers' identity before onboarding for all cash transactions with customers. It is also important to note that as part of the 2023 license renewal requirements, the Gaming Commission has instituted a policy where operators are to have, as part of their corporate social responsibility, a program on responsible gaming. The successful execution of that will be tied to their eligibility for a license. It is my conviction that these measures, including advocacy campaign on responsible gaming, which the Gaming Commission has already commenced, in Eastern and Volta region, will address the issue of gambling among the youth and children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honorable Dr. Anyako, any supplementary question?
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the chance to ask supplementary questions. I would like to again ask the Honorable Minister if there is a specific policy that guides betting in our educational institutions. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, there are regulations and for example, what I've told you, the Gaming Commission has acted with the police, and so far this year, they have closed 593 illegal slot machines, picked them for distraction. The district assemblies are also stakeholders, and therefore, that is the position. The law, minors should not gamble. And if you have evidence of that or you have allegations of that, we allow the police and other security agencies to come in. And as I've said, 593 machines have already been destroyed and people are arrested for investigation.
Yes, let me give you a last lot.
I didn't get the response clear because looking at the endemic and debilitating nature of betting among the youth in our schools, the response the minister just proffered, I wanted him to be specific in terms of a policy document, because if the assemblies confiscate property, I don't think that it is a policy that does that. Because I'm talking about a policy that says that, not even about minors, because it is clear that minors are not supposed to be, to engage in that. But we know that minors engage in that. Or it's being done about that. But in our schools, pre-tertiary and tertiary, is there a document, a policy that is clearly spelled out, that deals with this canker, that is affecting the fortunes of most youth in this country? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Right, Honourable Speaker. There is in fact a law, Section 48 of the Gaming Act, 2006, Act 721, prohibits minors, people under 18, from gambling. That is the law there. But let me tell you, apart from I talking about the advocacy, which has started in Eastern region and Volta region, for instance, we are insisting that in Ghana, if you are going to advertise, you have to bring the advertisement to the commission. And one of the things we are not allowing advertisements to use is celebrities. You know, children are attracted by celebrities, footballers, musicians, prominent, that would kind of lay them in that direction. We've said that should not happen. So these are the various implementation action plans that were put in place. But the law prohibits that. And therefore, I believe I attended school, like all of us. No school is supposed to allow its students or pupils to gamble. And that is for sure. All I'm assuring you is that if you need the assistance of security agencies, for instance, if you know of a particular school where the practice is prevalent, we can let the police go there to investigate. Thank you.
Honourable, you've exhausted your...
Please, last one.
No, you've exhausted it. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we appreciate the Minister for taking the time to respond to this very important question. Mr. Speaker, the Minister made references to the fact that minors, persons under 18, are prohibited from gambling. Yet we see sport betting and gaming centers being swamped almost every day in the national capital by persons who on the face value look below the age of 18. What does the Minister think can be done to ensure that minors do not engage in betting, as we see in various sports betting centers?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Honourable Speaker, such incidents should be reported to the police. I, in my constituency, for instance, I got to know that there were certain Chinese appliances in Pito houses. Yes, in the villages. If you don't go to the communities, you'll be surprised to find that you have these throwing machines in Pito houses. And so when you see, you report, and we arrest the operators. And we've arrested a few foreigners, including Chinese, and we've dealt with them. So if you find that sort of situation, please report for action to be taken.
Yes. The last
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm only rising to ask for education on the response from the Honourable Minister on the matter of what NADMO is supposed to do. The understanding I got was that it is our responsibility to get back to him if the state institutions are unable to do their work. Was that what he meant? It was not clear to me. I'm asking so that going forward I'm guided. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, state institutions are supposed to do their work. And these questions have been asked. I've referred to the state institutions under the ministry to account for what they have done in the situation. The extra that I am offering personally to colleagues is that even after the answers have come, if there is a need for an extra effort on my part, I'm prepared to do so. But I'm not saying that MPs are responsible for state agencies' activities. No. But if you find that my offer to be extra is not welcome, I withdraw it. Thank you very much.
Very well. On that note,
Mr. Speaker,
we bring question time to a close. Honourable Minister, on behalf of the House, let me thank you for attending upon the House to respond to members' concerns. Honourable Minister, I have not discharged you, but you are moving. I haven't discharged you, but you are moving. Yes, you are now hereby discharged. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, if we can deal with a couple of issues relating to public business. So we can go to item listed as 15.
Yes. Honourable members, let me invite you to page 8. Page 8, item listed as 15 on today's order paper. Ghana Hydrological Authority Bill 2021, the continuation of the consideration stage. Honourable members, the last time you couldn't put the question on clause 31. Yes, leader. So I'll move on to put the question on 31. Honourable members, all those in favour of the amendment on clause 31, honourable members, all those in favour that clause 1 stands, clause 31 stands part of the bill, say aye. All those against, say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. Clause 31 now stands part of the bill. We move to, so the question is, clause 31 are variously okay. So now we move to clause 32. All those in favor that cross 32 stands part of the bill, say aye. Please, let's be attentive a bit. All those in favor that cross 32 stands part of the bill, say aye. All those against, say no. Honorable members, cross 32. The ayes have it, cross 32 stands part of the bill. Now we move to cross 38. Very well. So we move to cross 33.
Borrowing powers.
Honorable members, there is no amendment. All those in favor?
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, Leader.
33, not really an amendment, but it has to do with the construction and the penultimate line in 33. We should have some punctuations to clarify the construction in 33. So we should have a comma after May in line 4 and another one after finance in the same line 4, so that it will read, subject to section 76 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016 Act 921, the authority may obtain loans and other credit facilities on the guarantee of government from the banks and institutions, as the minister may, in consultation with the minister responsible for finance, determine. But, Mr. Speaker, I believe we are talking about financial institutions, not any institutions. So, on the guarantee of the government from banks and financial institutions, not any other institutions. Banks and financial institutions, as the minister may, in consultation with the minister responsible for finance, determine.
Honourable members, cross 33 as has been now structured with insertion or amendment of financial institutions. The question is, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. All those against say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. So we move to clause 34.
Confidentiality.
Honourable members, there is no amendment. The question is 34.
Mr. Speaker, 34. I noticed that in 34:1, the preambular, we have shall ending the preambular. The Speaker, I believe, is not appropriately located. The shall should be removed from there. A member of the board, the chief executive officer, an employee of the authority. If you put the shall there, in respect of A, there ought to be a comma after the shall. So shall, comma, subject to any existing enactments, treat as confidential any information obtained in the exercise of powers or the performance of duties under this Act. But then will be correct. But when you come to B, the same shall, it doesn't require a comma. So rather we should delete the shall from the preamble and bring it to A and B, so that after A, we shall have the comma after the A, the shall after A, and make it sensible. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense the way it is situated.
Yes, Honorable Hiafo.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the shall must be applicable to both A and B. What the B is seeking to do is to make a proviso that a member of the board, the chief executive officer, or an employee of the authority shall not disclose any information except when required to do so by a court under an enactment or other circumstances determined by the board. So it's just a proviso, except. So the A is subject to, but the B is just making a provision for a proviso. So subject to his correction to put comma after shall, the rendition should stand the way it is.
Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think the point being made is not the case that we don't require the shall. We require the shall. But the shall in A has to be followed immediately by a comma. However, in B, you don't. So if you situate it in the preambular, then it alters the meaning in A. That's the point that I was making. But Mr. Speaker, if you have that understanding, whether you leave it or not, I will not further litigate it. But I think we should have that understanding. That's the point.
So it means we don't need to effect any amendment.
Mr. Speaker, is the understanding that I want the House to have. But if we have that understanding and agree that, well, let it be there, I wouldn't further litigate it. But I'm saying that if we had just one, if we had A without a B, you require the comma after shall. That's the point I'm making.
Yes, Honorable Hiafo.
Mr. Speaker, in that case, we need not use comma, in the sense that one of the rules of drafting is that sometimes the grammar would have to suffer for clarity. It's a cardinal rule in drafting. Grammar sometimes suffer for clarity. So grammatically, he's correct by stating that with the A, that should be comma. But because of the A and B, the grammar will have to suffer for clarity.
Very well. So I think we have to maintain 34 as it is.
Mr. Speaker, in interpretation, what we do here gets factored into interpretation in the event of litigation. I want us to have this understanding so that if in future there should be any litigation, the understanding then will be procured from what we have done here. That is why I'm saying that if you have that understanding, I will not further litigate. Thank you.
Very well. So, honorable members, all those in favor that Clause 34 stands part of the bill, say aye. All those against, say no. Honorable members, it's obvious the ayes have it. Clause 34 now stands part of the bill. We move to Clause 35.
Execution of contracts.
I guess there's no amendment.
Mr. Speaker, the same issues afflict 35 1B. The chairperson of the board or in the absence of the chairperson, a member. So you have the two, one after all and one after chairperson. There's two comments of that. In that, so that we shall have the chairperson of the board or, comma, in the absence of the chairperson, comma, a member of the board authorized by the chairperson.
Very well. So, honorable members, all those in favor of the amendment proposed by the leader say aye. 36.
Improper use of official seal.
I think there's no amendment. Yes, honorable Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm just trying to find out the proponents of the bill. Unfortunately, I don't even see any of them in the chamber. Why do they want to put this burden on the minister, not rather on the board? Because if they are dealing with the day-to-day of running the institution, and then they are talking about the use of the official seal, and they want the authorization to come from a minister who is not part of the day-to-day, I may want to get explanation why they want to do that, because I thought that the ideal thing would have been to get the board to authorize it, because they deal with the day-to-day and not a minister. But unfortunately, I can't see any of the proponents of the bill around. So, Mr. Speaker, maybe we may have to stand it down for them to explain, because I would have preferred. But I don't want to also propose an amendment, because they may have a very good reason why they want it so. So if we could stand 36 and take 37, so when they are around, they may be able to provide. I don't know whether the Minister for Works and Housing, even though he's the one they are referring to here, I don't know why they want to rather put the burden of authorizing the use of the official seal to the minister, not the board. But the minister is not there. If there's some reason why they want the minister and not the board, I'll be happy to hear it. Other than that, I'll prefer that we amend it to let the board deal with it, because they are dealing with the institution on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, would you like to respond to?
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. My understanding is that it helps the ministry or the minister, strengthens the minister's position to provide the oversight function, and also to say that it's not part of the day-to-day administration of the board. So you can't, if it's given to the minister, it will help strengthen his position to provide his oversight functions. Thank you.
Yes, leader.
That even becomes problematic, because we need to just simply ask ourselves, what may warrant the use of the official seal? Under what circumstances would the official seal be used? And if you can see the day-to-day workings of the agency and the frequency of the use of the seal, they have to be shuttling between their office and the office of the minister just to use an official seal. Mr. Speaker, I don't think this will augur well for the efficient running of that institution, just for the use of the seal. That's problematic. So I would want to propose an amendment, Mr. Speaker, that in line 1, after the delete minister and insert the board, so that the new rendition will be, a person shall not, without the authorization of the board, use the official seal of the authority. Because I strongly believe that this should be a in-house thing. Can you imagine that Parliament, the use of the seal of Parliament can only be done by going to ask permission from the President? How frustrating that would be. I mean, let's make the workings look easier. So I'll propose this amendment that will take the minister out and put the board. And probably, Mr. Speaker, if you permit me, also the head note, the use of improper use of official seal. Why not just use of official seal as a heading, instead of improper use of official seal. The one you read is talking about a person shall not. So I rather want to take them one by one. So I'll take the first one, which is in line 1, delete minister after death, and in its place insert the board. So that the new rendition will be, a person shall not, without the authorization of the board, use the official seal of the authority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, Leader. Is it?
Mr. Speaker, there is a standard that we have applied in fashioning laws of such nature. I'm not too sure what we've been doing. I appreciate the issue raised by the minority chairman. So I was looking for our drafters to assist in what we have been doing. Unfortunately, it's because I've just stumbled on this. I'm not too sure what to prefer. So I'll propose that we stand this one down and look at what we have been doing previously. The issue that is raising, to me, commends itself to me, that it rather should be the board. But because I'm not too sure, if we can have further consultation on that as to what we have been doing in previous times, then we have a similar construct for this one as well.
Yes, Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we do that, because Mr. Speaker, sometimes the difficulty we have is that when people are proposing things, the next, when it's two down, the next time it's going to be taken, you are not around, it's abandoned. If you look from 35, Mr. Speaker, look at what we just done in 35. We said the seal of the authority shall be authenticated by the signatures of the Chief Executive Officer. And I'm talking about 35, plus 35. The execution of contract. We say that the seal of the authority shall be authenticated by the signatures of the Chief Executive Officer and the Chair of the Board. So you see, so flowing from 35, it clearly shows that the use of the seal cannot be authorized by the minister, but the board, because both the Chief Executive and the Board Chair sit in the board. And when we authorize the board today, we are simply bringing others to be sure when the seal will be used. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, I share with your review. Yeah, let me come to you.
Mr. Speaker, the authority is a juristic person. And being a juristic person can only act by the board. So the Chief Executive Officer and the Chairperson of the board will sign with a seal without the knowledge of the minister. So why are we in 36 saying that a person shall not without the authority of the minister? So if you craft it that way, it means that if the Chief Executive or the Chairperson of the board signs with the seal without the authority of the minister, then they are committing an offense. So once the Chief Executive and the Chairperson of the board can sign with the seal, and it will become authentic as if it is done by the juristic person, which is the authority. We have to change the word the minister to the board.
Yes. So, should I put the question of the amendment?
I was looking for what we just did, and really it escaped me. So I was flipping through to see if I could see it from, decipher it from the functions of the board. But with this, 36 naturally flows from 35. So I believe that we can accommodate that. When we come to before the third reading, if we see anything contradictory to that, we could do a second reading. And for the time being, I believe that it has to be the decision.
Very well. So, honorable members, there is a proposed amendment to 36 and the 36(1). And the amendment is to the effect that we should change minister to board. Right? Yes. So, honorable members, all those in favor of the amendment proposed by the minority chief whip, say aye. All those against, say no. Honorable members, it's obvious the ayes have it. The amendment is carried.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Federal Amendment 36. Mr. Speaker, the head notes, improper use of official seal. Mr. Speaker, I think that it should simply be use of official seal. So I'll propose that we delete the improper, and then the drafters should get the head notes properly placed as use of official seal, because that's what we are talking about. Instead of the description added improper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, there is a proposed amendment to the head notes. Yes, honorable member for.
Mr. Speaker, the marginal notes should be able to capture what they are trying to do by that particular provision. So my suggestion is that if improper may be subjective, then we can use the word wrongful use of official seal. Wrongful use of the official seal. If improper use of official, if you said use of official seal, then you are talking about how the official seal is supposed to be used. But this one is saying that a person shall not, without the authority of the board, use the official seal. And 36(2) is saying that a person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense. So it's really talking about the wrongful use of official seal. If you want to do away with the word improper, then we can say wrongful use of official seal.
Well, Honorable Muntaka, are you abandoning your?
Honestly, I'm not convinced, because I believe that what 36 is trying to do is simply to talk about.
Let's.
Speaker, as far as I'm concerned, the value really is the same. Whether you see wrongful use of official seal or use of official seal and come to the body, the value is the same. Speaker, now look at Article 94 of the Constitution. It talks about qualifications and eligibility. But the body then will tell.
So, should.
Mr. Speaker, let us keep the official use of the seal and take off the improper.
Very well. So, Honorable, that's the amendment proposed by the Honorable Minority Chief Whip. All those in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. All those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The proposed amendment is adopted. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, may I propose amendment to 36(2). Second to last line. Instead of goods in relation to which the seal was used, then we said benefit derived.
May you come again? May you come again?
So we delete the word goods and we replace it with benefits. So the new rendition will be a person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 100 penalty units and not more than 250 penalty units, and shall in addition forfeit to the state the benefits in relation to which the seal was used.
As leader. Honorable Hiafo, may you put off your...
Yes, Speaker, I agree with the Honorable Hiafo. That is the standard provision that we've been capturing. So, the second time he was stating it, he omitted derived. I think that we use the phraseology, the benefits derived. So I guess it can be accommodated.
Very well. Honorable members, 36 cross 36 2. There is a proposed amendment by Honorable Member for South. All those in favor of the proposed amendment say aye. Honorable members, we should all contribute, and I expect you to respond to the question. All those in favor of the proposed amendment by Honorable Member for South, I say aye. Akachi South, sorry. All those against say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The proposed amendment is carried. Now, the question is, all those in favor that the amendment variously put up in clause 36 stands part of the bill, say aye. All those against say no. Honorable members, the amendments variously put up in clause 36 is hereby adopted and stands part of the bill. We move to clause 37.
Offences committed by a body of persons.
Is there any amendment? No amendment.
Mr. Speaker, the marginal note, offences committed by a body of persons. In our Interpretation Act, person is defined to include body corporate. So the terminology that we have been using is offences committed by a body corporate. So I propose that the marginal note reads offences committed by a body corporate. It's also a body corporate. Yes.
Yes. Honorable members, there's a proposed amendment.
Speaker, again, to agree with my colleague, the 36(2) is relating the offense committed to individuals, an individual person, whereas 37 makes a distinction between the commission, between an individual and a body corporate. And so I believe that the appropriate construct is body corporate and not body of persons, especially because, yes, Speaker, but again, in that regard, we have a standard construct. I don't know. Unfortunately, today our draft person, I can't immediately recollect what we have been doing, the construction that we have been doing. Mr. Speaker, the advice from the draft person is that this indeed is a standard construction. What we have done here is a standard construction. Because, the Speaker, a firm, for instance, may not necessarily be a body corporate. A firm may not necessarily be a body corporate. So that distinction, with that distinction, perhaps we can accommodate the 37 in the form and structure that's been captured. Because I've just seen the other ones that we have been doing previously. So we can just conform to what we have been doing. Yes, we are. Thank you.
No, I guess that we should maintain.
Mr. Speaker, the import of what I said is that we should leave it as
yes.
Just to make the distinction between a body corporate and some other firms that may not be body corporates. Yes.
Chairman, I gather the sense in leaders' proposal, but I think that what the ranking member on Constitutional and Parliamentary Affairs Committee says that unless the firm is not registered, you have to be registered. When you are registered, you are body corporate. You are body corporate. In fact, that's why you can have a partnership registered, even though it's a partnership, it's incorporated, it's registered. And this is a standard provision. So I'm surprised that we are deviating from the standard provisions that we've adopted in all the legislations that we've adopted recently. So I think that we should go back to some of the recent laws that we crafted and borrow a provision from there, and so that we can make progress. I don't think that we should litigate this matter too much. Thank you. So in effect, I support the proposition by the ranking member, the honourable member for Akati.
Anyway, so honourable member,
so that we borrow from.
Let's hear your rendition.
Some of the recent legislations. It's a standardized provision. Thank you.
The proposal is that the marginal note should read offences committed by a body corporate.
Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, just suggesting my colleague that let's tread on the path of consistency and allow this to be here as it is. But we have the whole of the weekend to reflect before we do the third reading, because my information is that this indeed is a standard that we have adopted recently. So let's leave it. Yes. So let's leave it now, and maybe next week when we come to it, before the third reading, if we have to revisit it, we can revisit it. But my attention has been drawn to recent formulations that we have done, that we have applied ourselves to it. So that being the case, Mr. Speaker, we can leave it as it is. But if we need to go back to it, to do a second reading, a second consideration, then in the course of the week, we'll do so before we do the third reading. So I appeal to my colleague to let it be as it is.
Very well. Honourable members, all those in favour of clause 37 to stand part of the bill, say aye. All those against, say no. Honourable members, clause 37 stands part of the bill. We move to clause 38.
Regulations.
I hope you are not going back to 37.
I think I have to use the opportunity to explain. Now, in Hosbury's laws of England, a body corporate is a juristic person and is not capable of committing a crime. It is only those behind that juristic person that are capable of committing a crime. So in the event where a crime is committed by a body corporate, you lift the corporate veil to punish those who are behind that juristic person. That is why you have a direct punishment for individuals who commit the offense. But in the event of a body corporate, since that body corporate being a juristic person is not capable of committing the offense, you lift the veil and punish the directors or the partners of the firm. That is what exactly the provision is talking about. Now, our Interpretation Act defines a person to include...
Leader, are you listening?
Define a person to include body corporate. So, when you say offenses committed by a body of persons, and the Interpretation Act already defines persons to include body corporate, what then are you saying? So, for me, I am clear that the provision is talking about instances where a body corporate is involved in the commission of a crime, and being a juristic person is not capable of committing the crime. You lift that particular corporate veil to punish the directors who are behind. That is what the provision is talking about. So you cannot have a marginal note stating offenses committed by a body of persons when persons are already defined by our Interpretation Act to include body corporate. So what the provision is saying is that in the event where a crime is committed by a body corporate, whether company or partnership, the individuals behind the body corporate are supposed to be punished. That is what 37 is all about. So I do not know why we should defer this for second consideration.
Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, the argument of my colleague really fortifies the position that what is here should be allowed to stay. The reason is this, Mr. Speaker, you are interpreting body of persons to necessarily mean a body corporate. You may have a body that may not be a body corporate, and it may not be an individual. Mr. Speaker, an agency or unit under maybe some parastatal may not be a body corporate. May not be a body corporate, and yet they may not be it may not be an individual. So we need to make that fine distinction. As I said, because we've been doing it like this, I just said that let it remain, let us reflect, and then maybe into next week, maybe Tuesday. Before certainly we do the third reading, would have had further reflection on this. Because it will mean that what you have been doing earlier may not be appropriate. And that's why I'm saying that for reasons of consistency, let's keep to this for the time being. And then next week, when we have had sufficient reflection, we'll see the way forward for us. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Very well. The question has already been put. We move to clause 38. Clause 38.
Regulations.
I guess there's no...
Mr. Speaker, the 38, there is an amendment standing in the name of the committee chair. 38. 2. 38.2, there is an amendment which is calling for the deletion of A, B, and C and the insertion of what is prescribed here by the committee chair. I don't know whether we can deal with it. If we deal with 38, for the interpretation we have to stand it down. For the interpretation we have to stand
Leader,
it down.
The chairman is not here.
The chairman is not here, but I've been working on this with the Honorable Bernard Ahiafo, but I was not available the other time. Yes. So I want to listen to him if he has any observations.
Especially on the committee. So
if he has any observations on the 2.
So you step 38. So we step 38 now. So, Leader, are you stepping 38 now?
The Speaker. The Speaker.
Yes, we are going to do second.
Leader, I'm thinking that if we agree with only 2, then we step down the entire clause 38. So that.
Yes, Speaker, I'm being advised. I owned up that I've not read 38. And I'm being advised that it's a bit pregnant with some confusing matters. So we'll stand that one down, plus the interpretation, and hopefully by Tuesday, I guess we can deal with that.
Very well. Table, take note of that. We move to 39.
39 is on interpretation.
So we are.
It's on interpretation. So 39, 40, and 41. We'll stand them down.
Okay.
And we'll deal with them.
Very well. So
deal with them. No,
so
I'm saying.
Honourable member.
We are standing down. 38,
Honourable member, then file it officially.
40 and 41. So we'll deal with them next Tuesday.
So it means we will pause on, we will stop here for...
We'll suspend further consideration.
Yeah. So we stop consideration at this stage. Very well. Leadership, any indication?
Mr. Speaker, with respect, and subject to the indulgence of my colleagues, I believe we can take item listed as 4T. 4T.
Honourable members, let me take you back to page 8. Page 8, item listed 14. Motion. Minister for Finance. Minister for Finance.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the minister is on his way coming, but we can't wait indefinitely. So I will please that we allow the deputy minister to hold the fort, and when he comes and he has anything to add, then he will do so. I think talking to this will not take more than 10 minutes. So the deputy minister, if the House indulges her, what time is it? Hello.
Well, leave granted. Deputy Minister for Finance and member for Etiwa East. Let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Tax Exemptions Bill 2022 be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, but the regime has been characterized with some challenges coupled with its persistent growth in the volumes and values in the last 10 years, despite government's efforts to curtail it. Some details on these are given in the accompanying memorandum. The regime in its current form sometimes creates unfair competition among businesses in the same industry players and between local enterprises and their foreign counterparts. Various abuses and irregularities are also key challenges in the exemptions administration. This invariably deprives the country of targeted domestic revenue. It has also been observed that some exemptions continue to exist on our statute books, though they have become obsolete. The bill therefore seeks to provide sunset clauses and a formal framework for reviewing these exemptions. These, amongst others, are the challenges that the bill seeks to address. Mr. Speaker, the bill also takes inspiration from measures enshrined in a commitment made as part of the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, which was subsequently endorsed by the United Nations General Assembly in July 2015, with regards to ODA-related exemptions. The bill also borrows from the 2020 guidelines provided by the United Nations Committee of Experts, International Cooperation in Tax Matters. Mr. Speaker, the projected exemptions for the year 2022 are expected to be lowered by about 400 million Ghana cedis when the bill is passed. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the motion has been moved. Let me invite the chairman of the committee to present the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion and in the process present your committee's report on one of the most important bills this House. Listen to their request that this bill be taken under certificate of urgency and the committee gave that approval. And that is why the House is able to consider it today. Mr. Speaker, the reason we approved their request for it to be considered under certificate of urgency is because this bill came to us. It was referred to the committee, and we looked at the bill, made changes. They took it back, incorporated those changes, and then was relayed. Then the committee met on it a second time, went through the report and concluded that indeed the changes have been accurately and adequately captured. Hence, the few amendments you see under paragraph 8, and then the committee's conclusion, Mr. Speaker, was that upon a thorough examination of the bill, we recommend to this House to adopt this report and pass the Tax Exemptions Bill 2022 into law in accordance with the Constitution and to meet the expectations of our own citizenry, but also our development partners and the investor community. I so move, Mr. Speaker. I so second.
Honourable members, the motion has been moved. It has been seconded by way of presenting the committee's report. The report is now before the House for consideration. Obviously, let me come to you, Honorable Ranking Member. Very well. Let's hear you, Honorable Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even before I start to speak to the motion, let me draw my chairman's attention to the fact that second reading of a bill, we don't second. You speak to the motion. You speak to the motion. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak to the motion. I rise to speak to support the motion that was moved by the Deputy Minister.
My understanding is that a motion cannot be considered unless it has been seconded. Except second. Okay. Oh, okay, that's an exception. All right. Speaker, the chairman slipped and he corrected himself subsequently. He shouldn't just take advantage of it to create a certain impression. Haven't you slipped before in this house? Haven't you slipped before in this house? Go ahead and express your own views and let us know your views about the bill. Why do you want to take on chairman who has been making you happy? The chairman of the finance committee. And you members, you are not coming to the rescue of chairman. And today is Friday. Are you not coming to the rescue of your chairman who is in charge of your happiness? Oh, he doesn't make you happy.
I hope Honorable Deputy Leader today wouldn't give me troubles. So, Honorable Leader, Honorable Frank, let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion that was moved by the Deputy Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I say this because, for me, this is one of the most important bills that has been introduced by this administration. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's tax exemption regime has been abused. It has been too generous, Mr. Speaker, and has never been regulated over the years. As a result, the country has lost so much revenue. The time has come for us to regulate the extent in which we can grant tax exemptions. Mr. Speaker, oftentimes, sector ministers are those that grant tax exemptions as part of contracts that they sign. So, Mr. Speaker, at the time the contract comes to Parliament for us to approve it, the tax exemption request comes to Parliament for us to consider approval. We have no other choice than to consider the approval or recommend its approval. Mr. Speaker, this is because already sector ministers have signed contracts that include tax exemptions. Mr. Speaker, some of them, they have renditions that suggest that they have granted all taxes, exemption for all taxes. Mr. Speaker, it's never done anywhere in the world. There should be a limit in which you can grant those tax exemptions. So I'm glad that the minister responsible for finance in the bill before us is going to have some form of power in regulating the tax exemptions before they can make recommendation to us as a house to approve. Mr. Speaker, during the time we were considering this bill, I had the privilege to speak to the JRA privately, and I asked them to compile for me the tax exemptions that Ghana has lost from 2008 to date, so that at least we'll be able to have an idea the tax exemption regime and how much it has cost the nation. Mr. Speaker, to my surprise, I realized that from 2008 to date, the provisional data from the Ghana Revenue Authority from 2008 to 2020 says that Ghana has granted tax exemption around 27 billion Ghana cedis. 27 billion Ghana cedis, around 27 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, it's provisional. It's provisional in the sense that even though the Ghana Revenue Authority will be in a position to account accurately for customs taxes that we grant tax exemptions, it will be difficult for them to give an accurate accounting of indirect taxes and direct taxes. Mr. Speaker, we were told that during the period, customs taxes alone that we granted tax exemption was 15.5 billion. We granted indirect taxes exemption of 6.1 billion and 1.7 billion for direct taxes. Mr. Speaker, when I asked the question that how come that the direct and indirect taxes is quite low, they said they do not have a regime to be able to capture in full the entire tax exemptions that they have granted. Mr. Speaker, granted, that is 26 billion for that 12-year period. It is important for us to recognize that this indeed is an outlier if you compare it to our West African neighbors, at the minimum. Mr. Speaker, that is why I believe that the time has come for us to address the issue of tax exemptions. This tax exemption bill is a very robust one, very strong one indeed, Mr. Speaker. So I call on all members of the House, particularly those of us who are ministers, among us who are ministers. I know some of them will have a different view to this tax exemption bill because obviously as ministers of state, some powers will be taken from them. I think they should take interest in the consideration of this bill. They should not wait for us to approve the tax exemption bill and later come back and complain. Mr. Speaker, last week, something similar happened in this House. This August House approved a regulation, a policy to regulate 1B, 1F tax regime. All of us debated it, got it approved, but in the end, when the committee brought a report that suggests that we should approve the tax exemption regimes, members stood against it. Mr. Speaker, this is because we don't take part in the debate of the tax exemptions that is before us. I urge members to be interested in the tax exemption bill because it's a very good bill. Mr. Speaker, it is not just a good bill, but it's going to be a landmark bill that will regulate the entire tax exemption regime. So I urge all of us to be interested in this bill whilst we take them one by one. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, we do not have a lot of amendment because we incorporated the amendment in the bill and later on withdrew it and relayed it. We agree that this should be done in a form of under certificate of urgency because the Speaker, this should have been passed long ago. I would have wished that we passed this bill before the media review. The Speaker, the amount of money we envisage to get under e-levy, this tax exemption regime alone can give it back to us. Let's approve this and make sure we can have it done before the Minister of Finance appear before us and deliver the media review. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the motion.
Thank you very much. Yes, let him come to Akin Swedru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to the motion on the floor. Mr. Speaker, first of all, we must commend the MPP government for taking such a bold decision. Such a bold decision to introduce this bill. Mr. Speaker, many governments have tried. They have tried to pass this bill, but because the will was not there, they couldn't do it. But this government have taken it as a project to get this bill passed. Mr. Speaker, this government has viewed the bill or the motion before us. It's a very important bill. If we are able to pass it, it's going to save this country a lot of revenue. Because as it stands now, like my colleague Honorable Forson said, many of these exemptions that we are giving out are not properly coordinated. And this country keeps losing a lot of money. So for the government to have that kind of the will in bringing this bill to this House, for the House to pass this bill, shows the commitment in making sure that we are able to protect the revenue of this country and generate enough revenue for the development of this country. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I want to encourage everybody in this House to support this bill, to make sure that we are able to streamline the granting of exemption in this country and be able to raise enough revenue for development in this country. Thank you.
Yes, let me now go to Bongo.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
I acknowledge the fact that the Tax Exemption Bill 2022 is a very important bill. But you also do know that this is the second reading of the bill. It means that a decision has to be taken. And so, in line with Article 104, as interpreted by the Supreme Court, Judge Sabla and the Attorney General, I think that we do not have at least 137 to be able to take a decision. So, in as much as it's an important bill, and you are praising and giving, jumping and praising yourself for bringing it, which we agree, we do not have 137 to continue with this conversation. So on this note, I'm drawing Mr. Speaker's attention to it, that anything we do post this is deliberately looking in the eyes of Supreme Court and defying their instructions. And this is a country of laws and the Constitution. So, God willing, maybe Tuesday, if we have the numbers, we'll continue with the conversation. But as at now, we cannot take a decision because this is a decision point for the second reading of the Tax Exemption Bill 2022. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague who just spoke made an emphatic statement that anything that we do post his own intervention will be in defense of the Supreme Court. You said to us that anything that we do post what you yourself have just said will be in defense to the Supreme Court's ruling. Mr. Speaker, I beg to disagree. What we are doing now is really debating the principle. If we do anything by your observation that you are saying that we may not have to take a decision, that's a different matter. But to say that anything that you do post your own intervention is in defense of the Supreme Court, I decide that is what you said. That indeed is what you said. That indeed is what you said. Mr. Speaker, so I'm just telling you that it is not in violation, but if it's a decision, that is another matter. But we have not put the question, so we are not at the decision point. Mr. Speaker, I believe we can go on with the debate, except to observe that he himself is physically not properly constituted to have even gotten down, gotten up to make his own intervention.
Mr. Speaker, when you have the majority leader discriminating against the otherwise challenged, physically challenged, you have the majority leader of Parliament discriminating against physically challenged persons, then it's serious.
Honorable member.
But that being said, Mr. Speaker, just on a more serious note, my point is that if it is about a debate, fine. But I'm saying that this is a decision we are going to take. It's the second reading of the Tax Exemption Bill 2022. And that is also a decision to be made. And so I'm just drawing the House attention to the fact that we cannot, because we do not have at least 138 to be able to proceed.
Very well. So we haven't gotten there yet. Let's go on with the debate. Yes. Let him now come to. I was going to.
Thank you.
Anyway, sir, you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Go ahead.
Anyway, you let him. Honorable Admakon, let's hear you.
I rise to support the motion. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I'll give one or two excuses. The Speaker, it's a fact and it's true that the tax exemption attracts foreign investment and also it attracts investment into specific sectors and locations of economy. But Mr. Speaker, the continued rise of tax exemption impacts negatively on how much the government mobilizes the government as a tax for the state. Mr. Speaker, the country is expected to make substantial savings with the expected passage of tax exemption bill 2022. Mr. Speaker, the bill needs to be strengthened particularly by defining an exemption properly and comprehensively. It also requires that other exemptions in the tax code need to be re-examined for their effective and value for money, and to see what the potential revenue savings could be made by adjusting them. Mr. Speaker, these are the important things that we need to focus our attention rather than increasing taxes. But if the government is to focus its attention on this tax exemption, I think there will be no need for government to increase more taxes. With these few words, I support the motion.
Very well. Let me come to Tapradik.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Western Regional Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy that finally this bill has come back to the House. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the observation, you realize that inputs were made by the committee and the original bill that came to the House was taken back and the inputs were incorporated. Clearly, I believe that this bill, as it stands now being introduced, is a bipartisan bill, and therefore both sides of the House should do whatever it takes to get it passed. Mr. Speaker, we are told that the country basically loses a lot of money when it comes to exemptions that we give in the House. We are talking about 2.27 billion annually in exemption. And therefore, if we continue at this rate in the next 16 years, we would have lost a large chunk of money for the country's own revenue mobilization. Therefore, I do believe that with the new reporting standards and monitoring that has been incorporated in the new bill, I believe that it is proper and fair that we pass it so that the country can raise the needed revenue to support the economy. Mr. Speaker, a lot of times when the issue of tax exemption comes up, I personally have a lot of mixed feelings, especially when we want to use them to build our industries, where jobs will be created, especially where we want to invite investors or construction companies to invest in our economy, where they need these exemptions to make sure that we can invest in the country's infrastructure. In fact, the question sometimes I ask is that if you add the taxes, will the cost of the project also not go up? If you withdraw the incentives from the manufacturing sector or free zone enclaves, are we not going to also reduce jobs for our people? So I believe that now that we are going to have a bill that will be passed into law, at least one of the things that is going to provide is certainty, so that anybody trying to invest in this country will be certain as to the rules in ways in which they are going to be exempted or not exempted, so that the discretionary powers that some people see with abuse would have been eradicated. In that case, when the exemptions come to the House and we apply them according to the guidelines and the law, then we are clear in our mind that the right things are being done, and nobody is going to think beyond what is on paper and be thinking that people are favoring people or some beneficial owners are getting more than others in developing this country. So, with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I believe that since the input has been made by the committee on both sides, this is a bipartisan bill we all need to support and make sure that we pass it so that certainty is provided in that regime of tax exemptions in the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, let me. Are you a member of the committee, Finance Committee? Okay. What?
I'm not rising on the issue of quorum. Mr. Speaker, I also want to support that we look at this bill and pass it quickly, because any further delay is an indirect loss of revenue to this country. The IEA, in one of their reports, estimates that we lose about $5 billion cedis annually through tax exemptions. And we all agree that the issue of tax exemptions are not properly coordinated. And so it is important that we have this guide so that officials that enter into negotiations on our behalf are guided on some of the things that are likely to be allowed by this House to be exempted and things that should not even be brought before us. And so it is important that this happens. And if we are able to pass this bill, it is even going to make our own work easier, because any request that is brought to us, we already know what to allow to be exempted and what not to allow. And so it is going to help us a lot. And I'm particularly interested in an amendment that has been proposed by the committee, and that talks about restricting exempting taxes that are imposed by local authorities. Because sometimes you realize that local authorities have their own taxes, they have approved their taxes to be collected, and then somebody enters with a letter and say that all these taxes have been waived, and it deprives our local authorities also of their source of revenue. And so if these things are streamlined, it will help, because in this particular moment, what we need as a country is to harness all the revenues that we can get in order to help solve our economic challenges. So I want to encourage all of us to support this, and let us do it expeditiously. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. So, will I come to leadership? Anyway, I'm giving you, then I come to leader then. So, Honorable Member for Cape South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the motion. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the most important bills that we've undertaken in this House. Mr. Speaker, especially for the times that we are in, where the country actually needs revenue to be able to fund a lot of things that we are funding at the moment, especially at the time where we have called the IMF to come back to our doorsteps to help us restructure our economy and find ways to enhance revenue. Mr. Speaker, we have lost almost 30 billion. I think Honorable Atuforsen gave figures of around 27 billion in terms of tax exemptions, which is roughly around about 5 billion US dollars, maybe in today's money. Currently, we are at the IMF looking for about $2 billion to support our economy. Yet, we have lost so much money through this tax exemption, money going to people or institutions who actually don't deserve the tax exemption. There are MDAs or ministers who sign up contracts without any recourse to the center, by that I mean the Ministry of Finance, and attach their own tax exemptions, which then becomes something that this Parliament will have to grant. A lot of the tax exemptions that comes here, Mr. Speaker, we don't even know how it ends up. We don't see the benefit. We've been giving tax exemptions to sectors of the economy that no longer deserves any tax exemption. The strategy was to be able to give tax exemptions so that we will get FDIs, that is foreign direct investment, coming from outside and coming from people who have money to invest in sectors of the economy that we actually need to improve.
over the years, there are places where we no longer need to give tax exemptions to, but we are still giving tax exemptions to certain areas of the economy which actually doesn't deserve it. There are areas in the future we will have an opportunity because of this bill, which becomes law. We will have an opportunity to examine the tax exemptions guided by this law to people who approach us for this kind of exemptions. Mr. Speaker, 27 billion or 30 billion is a lot of money. Money that could be used in this economy. Money that probably wouldn't get us to where we are today. We've been giving it out for free. And I think it's about time that we make sure that this law is enforced and this House play its role, the oversight responsibility of making sure that tax exemptions given to sectors of the economy are deserving. And also to look at other areas of the economy that should strategically be getting tax exemptions that they are not getting. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you.
Yes, Leader, may you conclude for us?
Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity to also add my voice to recommending to us to approve this bill that is before us. Mr. Speaker, the import of the bill has been stated by my colleagues who have spoken ahead of me, and there's no gainsaying the fact that once you do this, it will inure tremendously to the benefit of this country. Mr. Speaker, the ranking member on finance has given us some figures, about 27 billion Ghana cedis that we have lost from 2008 till now, 2020. Mr. Speaker, that is for a period of 12 years. And that means that every year, on the face of it, we have surrendered over 2 billion, 2.2 thereabouts. The Speaker, in nominal terms, yes, this is the figure that is being given to us. I would suggest that, and my colleague, the Honorable Ricketts, is saying that it will translate to about, you do say about 5 billion. Certainly, on the face of this, less than 8 billion, maybe less than even 4 billion. It should be about 3 point something billion. However, the Speaker, if you should dollar rate it from the inception, that is from 2008 up to date, you realize that we'll be talking about perhaps double of that amount, not less than 50 billion that we might have lost up to now. And that is significant. And that certainly, if we had that amount today, Mr. Speaker, even a third of it today, we will not be talking about re-engagement with the IMF. Mr. Speaker, so it's important that we put our house in order. What I'm yet to gather, Mr. Speaker, is the impact.
Honorable members, please.
Is the impact of these waivers on the economy. The Finance Committee, when referrals are made to them, they are required not only to come to us with the terms and conditions of such facilities, but to also report to us the impact of the facility on the economy. They have never done that. The Speaker, is the reason why we are proposing in the new standing orders that we have a separate committee that will deal with the economy, so that when these get to be referred to them, we'll have the impact of such facilities, such waivers on the economy reported on, so we are sure of what you are doing. The Speaker, what we should know is that going back to this, it certainly is also going to have significant impact on the economy, because we must get it right. We are going to have at the outset, at the input level, significant amounts coming into the economy. But let's not forget that it's also going to add to the cost of contracts. It's going to add to the cost of contracts and may add to some level of inflation in the system. And that is why I'm saying that we need further and better clarification of what you are doing, the impact on the economy. Don't look at just the returns, how much is going to come to the economy. You need the money. Yes. What is going to be the impact, the overall impact on the economy? We have not yet, as of yet, been told. Mr. Speaker, the other matter that concerns me is we grant tax waivers and goods come into the system. And when the people that we grant the waivers to are done with the usage, oftentimes they are selling the goods at whatever rate to other persons before they leave the system. If for the system to trace and track these goods that are being resold and collect the taxes that we might have waived at the port, at the level of disposal, we should get it back to the economy. We never do that. So, Mr. Speaker, the fault is not in our stars. It's in ourselves. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I want us to address our minds to what the Constitution provides in Article 174. Article 174.1 provides, no taxation shall be imposed otherwise than by or under the authority of an Act of Parliament. And then 2, which is significant, provides, where an act enacted in accordance with clause 1 of this article confers power on any person or authority to waive or vary a tax imposed by that act, the exercise of the power of waiver or variation in favor of any person or authority shall be subject to the prior approval of Parliament by resolution. Mr. Speaker, I heard my colleague, the Honorable Ato, say to us that oftentimes when these agreements come before us, we don't look into it. The power is in the hands of Parliament. Per Article 274.174.2, we have to do that by a resolution. And then we're rushing through the resolution without looking at the import of what you are doing. Mr. Speaker, so who do we blame? It's us, ourselves. And then listen to what 174.3 provides. 174 clause 3 provides, Parliament may by resolution, supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all members of Parliament, exempt the exercise of any power from the provisions of clause 2 of this article. What does it mean? If there is an abuse, Mr. Speaker, we can't resort to 174.3 to cure the mischief. We have never ever, since my entry into Parliament in 1997, we have never ever resorted to Article 174.3. So, as I say, the fault is not in our stars. The fault is in us. What Parliament must be doing, if there is an abuse, we don't resort to that. 174.3, we don't resort to that. So, Mr. Speaker, that's where the problem is. And that is why I am always telling us that Parliament is often being negligent in the performance of our responsibilities, of our duties. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to strengthen Parliament. Let's really liberate the committees to do what is required of the committees. Let's provide the necessary resources. For instance, the Committee on Finance, now that we have that remit, we could engage experts to advise us. Cash. The Speaker, every year we set aside sufficient allocation for the purpose of engaging experts. I keep telling us, no committee has ever applied to use any of. Yes, I'm aware of that. Since we started doing that, since 2008, not one committee has applied to use that money. So every time the money goes back to chest. And then we blame, who are we blaming? Mr. Speaker, so to me, ignorance, he says I didn't tell you, ignorance is no excuse of the law. Mr. Speaker, as a member of Parliament, you are supposed to read materials that come before you. You are not telling me that you didn't know. You didn't know what? Mr. Speaker, now this is a very timeous intervention. The bill will cure the mischief that we have been talking about. But I'm just drawing attention that we have not resorted to the vehicle that Article 174 provides us. We cannot blame anybody. But having said so, Mr. Speaker, let me end on a good note to thank the Minister responsible for Finance for introducing this bill. We must read it carefully, and if there are any amendments that we can proffer. The bill has gone to the committee, and the committee has digesting it, proffered useful amendments which have been factored into the bill before us. We will plead with colleagues to reflect on same over this weekend. So if there are any useful suggestions, we should come back with them, and then we'll try to factor them into the bill. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, I realize that almost all the contributors established the fact that this particular bill is very important. At least that's what I gathered from almost all the contributors. And therefore, I think we all have to support for the forward march of this country. Therefore, the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion listed 14 in today's other paper, say aye. All those against, say no. Honourable members, it's obvious the ayes have it.
An act to
The motion is hereby adopted.
An act to regulate the application of tax exemptions and other exemptions, and to provide for related matters.
Honourable members, the Tax Exemption Bill 2022 is accordingly read a second time. Leadership, any indication? Yeah, I understand the minister would like to say something. Minister, let's hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I really want to thank you for this opportunity, and to really thank the House for, as Rankin said, maybe one of the most important revenue measures that we are taking in this House. And it is one that is favored, by our colleagues, development partners, CSOs, etc. And also particularly to thank the Finance Committee for shepherding this through. In these very turbulent times, it is heartwarming to see such unanimity in the House for something that will help our current country. It is true, as Rankin mentioned, that somewhere between 27 billion has been lost over the period.
Yes,
and actually,
Mr. Speaker, for the record, the Honourable K.T. Hammond entered the House. He was in white. I believe he's now gone to the mosque. The person speaking now is not Honourable K.T. Hammond. It's the minister responsible for finance. A seat has been advertised as Honorable K.T. Hammond. The words he's speaking cannot come from K.T. Hammond. Honorable. It's from the Minister of Finance.
Well noted, and I'll urge table and records to take note of that. So, Honorable Minister, let's hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the clarification and avoidance of impersonation. So truly, Mr. Speaker, I believe that even if we look at 2018 to now, average of about 2.4 billion cedis of lost revenues from tax exemption. It was only in 2020 that we declined to about 1.7, 1.8 billion, but we are back to 2.4 billion in 2024. With this, for 2022, we'll likely make some savings of 416 million, which will be important as we begin this trajectory. But I think it also brings into focus the need for all of us to be protecting the public purse. And that is a social re-engineering that's important for us as we lose revenue on many fronts. So, Mr. Speaker, let me once again thank the House for the work that has been done and the unanimity in accepting where we are going to ensure that our revenue mobilization is enhanced. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Yes, leadership, any indication?
Speaker, I think we had an agreement amongst ourselves that after we listen to the minister in the second reading of the tax exemption bill, we will take an adjournment. Our colleagues have to travel all the way to Ho as a distance. We have a shorter distance to cover from here to Accra Stadium. From here to Accra Stadium, we can even walk. They have to drive. Mr. Speaker, so I would plead that we take an adjournment now to have Speaker, so we can take adjournment now and resume Tuesday next week.
I'm a good courier. I've heard you.
I'll do that now.
Mr. Speaker, just to announce that there is an interdepartmental research and information group of Parliament invitation to all of us to a data fair, which is being organized in collaboration with the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, ASEPA. Under the theme openness and transparency, promote data and evidence in the part of Ghana. The Speaker, it comes off the 19th of July at the Annan Auditorium at 9 a.m. and members are being invited to participate Tuesday, the 19th at 9 o'clock. I guess in the morning, 9 a.m. You would have returned. You would have returned. It must end. Your own involvement. You're supposed to be there at 9, and by 10 you'll be migrating to the chamber. I thank you, Speaker.
Well, available leader.
Now, let me also be the dispatch box for
Honorable leader, let's hear you. Let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, my friend Honorable Afenyo Makin is very jealous of me today. Very, very jealous of me today. Mr. Speaker, I can only support the statement from the majority leader, and to add that this weekend is going to be a very important weekend for both sides. For us, we are going all the way to Ho, to Jojo, and to strategize how to send them here and bring them to this side in the coming years. I'm sure they're also going to Accra Sports Stadium to elect their national executives. So it's important that we close early. But I can assure them that regardless of whatever they will do, the outcome of their elections, as for the age, you can't break it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honourable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and it has been seconded. But let me remind you, when leader was reading the business statement, he says next week we have a lot of things to do. And therefore, our commencement time, 10 o'clock, we are not going to joke with it. We have a lot of activities. So let's be punctual. 10 o'clock, Tuesday, 10 o'clock on the forenoon. I thank you very much for your attention and for your cooperation. The House stands adjourned.